Alright, CNT120, Chapter 5 Lab for our on-campus people. We just got done doing the packet tracer part, saving that file. Do make sure that file from the packet tracer part gets submitted to D2L. That's portion 1 lab for you. The portion 2 lab, I have a reminder here of scroll down, keep going. We're going to do the same type of thing that we did in packet tracer, but we're going to do it in the lab room. So this won't take us long, but let's get started. We are going to take the patch cable from the back of your PC, that blue patch cable from the back of the PC, trace it over to the outlet box. Right now it should be connected to the like the hack internet outlet box. Find your cable. So if you're sitting in computer 9, you'll find patch cable 9. You're going to take patch cable 9, unplug it from the hack internet box, and plug it into the room network box. It'll be an outlet box right next to it. It'll be labeled room network. When you do, pay attention to the port number on that room network box. As you look at as you plug into the port, there'll be a little label there that lets you know a number, and you're going to look for, I think it's the last number on there is the port number. Pay attention to that port number. Now, I'm going to go over and do that on my workstation. So I'm going to pause this while I'm going to pause this podcast while I go move that cable on my workstation. Okay, Mr. Brown just moved his patch cable from the hack internet box to the room network box. When I did, it was labeled 101 dash and a number. Mine I happened to plug into port 18. So that lets me know that I plugged into port 18, the room network. That horizontal cable that goes up above your head, in this case is gray cabling, goes up above your head across the room and down to the side of the room to the room network equipment rack. I'm going to go to port 18 on that patch panel, and I'm going to use a patch cable to go from port 18 on the patch panel, okay, port 18 on the patch panel, down to the switch that Mr. Brown has noted. There's a CNT120 room network switch, and I'm going to try to plug it into port 18 on the switch. That way, again, my computer is plugged into my example port 18 on the room network outlet box. I'm going to follow over to the patch panel to port 18. I'm going to grab a patch cable and go from port 18 down to switch port 18. So I'm going to go over and plug that in. I'll be back in just a second. Alright, and Mr. Brown is back. I just plugged the patch cable in from the patch panel port 18 down to my switch port 18. Now, I'm using that example. You'll want to pay attention to the port numbers you're using on your outlet box and your patch panel. Alright, now that I have the physical layer done, you'll see down here I don't have internet connectivity anymore. Yeah, I've moved over to a different network that's using a different IP scheme. The patch panel you plugged into and the switch you plugged into, that switch is cabled up to the router. It's at the very top of the equipment rack. That is our connection outside of this room, but it's using a different IP scheme. It's using a 172.16 scheme. So I'm going to open my network settings. I'm going to open my Ethernet 3. So there's my network and sharing. I'm going to open up Ethernet 3. And right now, Ethernet 3 is set for, here's my IP version 4. It's set for obtain IP address automatically. Well, there's no DHCP server on this network, so I need to plug in a static IP. We're going to follow this scheme. We're going to use the 172.16.16. It's 172.16 network, and 16 happens to be the subnet we're using. And now I'm going to plug my PC number in. Well, Mr. Brown is sitting in computer 25, so I'm going to use 125. Okay, that's what I happen to be using. I'm on computer number 25, so I'll use 125. That way I do not duplicate anybody else in the room. My subnet mask, I need to use this right here because this network is subnetted. So I'll do the whole thing, 255.240.0. And I need the gateway address of 16.16.1. 172.16.16.1. That is the address of the router that's in that equipment rack. Now, I need also the address of a DNS server. We're going to use 8888. That is actually the Google DNS server. So we're actually just going to use that DNS server to get any place we need to get to. I will say OK, close. I will give it a second to kind of register this. Hopefully it'll register this and give me a connection outside. You might get a pop-up about connecting to a new network. What I see down here though is my network connection came back. And if I come out here, it's showing me, oops, get back here. Get back here, there we go. there is my public network return. So what I'm going to do now is verify that with my command prompt. So I'll close that out. Let me open up my command prompt, and I'll do an ipconfig/all. And I want to look for Ethernet 3. That's the one we're using. Let me scroll up here to Ethernet 3. This guy right here, Ethernet adapter, Ethernet 3. Okay. There is the IP address that I set. There's the subnet mask I set. There's the gateway I set. Here's the DNS I set. And that is now, looks like a usable, viable IP address on the network. Let's do a ping and a trace test. So we're going to do a ping, and we're going to ping Google. Let me make this, I think that's a little, there we go. That should be a little easier to see now. We'll hit enter, and we might get a timeout or two. That's okay, but we should at least get a couple successfuls in here. And I have a connection out to Google. So my cabling is correct and my layer 3 is correct, very much like we did in the packet tracer part of the lab. We're also going to run a trace route to Google. That'll show me the path that it's taking to get to Google. And we'll let that run a little bit. It usually gets part way and starts hitting things like firewalls and so forth that don't respond back, so it starts timing out. But we'll at least get part way. We'll let it run part way. If need be, we'll use the Control-C to stop it after we get maybe 6 or 8 steps along the way. We're then going to save these results that save the results of these tests we've been performing. We'll get it yet. So we hit the router here, we're getting out through the college network, we're hitting outside to service providers, and we're slowly working our way to Google's server, if you will, Google's web server. And we're starting to get, I was going to say, we might start getting some responses like no. We'll go maybe 1 or 2 more. It usually gets part way and starts hitting firewalls and things that are like, nope, I'm not going to respond to you, I'm not going to listen to you. And that's good enough for what we're doing. We know we're out through the network. I did a Control-C just to stop it for interest of time. Let's now gather these results. So I'm going to open up my notepad file here. And again, I'll put a note in here, CNT120, Chap5Lab, and I'll put part 2 up here. That way I know what this is. And we'll have our PC IP config results. I'll just put a little note there that's IP config results. I'm going to scroll up and I'm just going to copy the Ethernet 3. I don't need everything else. There's my setting that I did. I will do a Control-C here, go over to my notepad file, and I will paste these in. And I know it's mine, .125. Hit the enter key a couple times, and then I'm going to grab the ping and the trace that we did. So here's the ping to Google and then the trace we did to Google. Control-C again, come over here and I'll put in ping test, and then I will put a little note here of this is my trace test. That way I can just kind of keep things sorted and organized. I will save this. I'll do file save as. I'm going to go to my, this is one I was using earlier, so I'll just put this in here and call this CNT120 Chap5Lab Part 2 Brown, that kind of thing. That way I know it's the second part to my lab. Alright, so now that we have that done, we save those results to our text file. We're going to reverse our cabling process. I'm going to move my patch cable back to the hack internet. Then I will go over to the equipment rack and pull my patch cable out of the patch panel port. In my case was port 18. Pull that out so that port is now free for somebody else to potentially use in the lab. So I'm going to pause while I'm doing that. Alright, Mr. Brown's back. I moved my patch cable to the hack internet box, and I went over to the equipment rack at the side of the room and pulled the patch cable out that I was using between the patch panel and the switch. Well, I'll see that I don't have internet connection. Yep, I'm cabled back to the college network using a 192, and we're set for a 172, so it's not going to work yet. So what I need to do, let me minimize 1 or 2 things here. I'll close out my command prompt. Let's go to my network settings again. We'll go to network and sharing. We're going to go to Ethernet 3 properties, and we want to set these back to dynamic. Obtain IP address automatically, obtain DNS automatically. And I'll say OK, close, OK. Give this a second to register. There we go. And if I do an IP config now, I should see that I have a 192 from the college. And if I were to ping something like Google, make that a little smaller, there we go. If I were to ping down here, www.google.com, we can do it again, no issues. So we're back on the college network with a layer 1 cabled correctly and my layer 3 working correctly with the IP addressing. All right. Now, I don't need those results because if you can submit your lab to D2L, I know that this got done correctly. So at this point, make sure your text file has these pieces in, the IP config part from early in the lab, and then the ping to Google and the trace to Google. Make sure you have those and submit this to D2L for the second part of your lab. The third part of the lab, I'll show you in the lab room. I'll show you how to make a patch cable, and I will treat that as some bonus points for you if you do make one and test it out and get it functioning correctly. So there's the end of part 2 for our campus CNT120 people.